Well, hello everyone. I am Mike Amerlon. I am a product manager on Minecraft Creator Team, and I'd like to invite you to this very first Minecraft Bedrock Creator Camp, where we're going to be featuring a number of different sessions. Today is tutorial day, so we'll be featuring a number of different tutorial sessions. But we're also going to be featuring a number of awesome creators tomorrow who will be speaking about some of the creations that they've built. We're going to have a roadmap and state of the world from Kayla and Donald, and then we'll have some Q&A with the creator engineering team and also with a creator roundtable with some creators so we can hear about how they built everything that they've built. So please ask your questions. It's in YouTube chat. I have a friendly team of moderators who are helping to kind of bubble up the right questions as we go along. Because this is our first creator camp day, there probably will be some things that we don't get quite right. I'll probably be behind the camera, so if you hear my voice coming on the camera, it's just me trying to fix some things. But you know, we're all friends, so this will be an exciting experience, and hopefully if you have feedback about it, leave it in the comments, and we'll take that and hopefully do some better creator camps in the future. But with that, I will go kick it off on a landscape of the Minecraft Platform Edition. So today, as you probably know, some of the major editions of Minecraft are Minecraft Java Edition and Minecraft Bedrock Edition. Minecraft Java Edition, of course, is the classic edition that everyone plays, that's got all the mod capabilities, and that's where all the cool features are. Of course, mods are a foundational element to Minecraft Java Edition. Whether you're building data packs or whether you're doing some Java injection or custom protocol servers, those latter two options, they're not super well supported, but people have built some amazing things on top of Java injection and custom protocol servers, and really and data packs as well, to really customize how Java Edition works. But today we're going to be focusing on Bedrock Edition. Bedrock Edition is the version of Minecraft that we have across PC and consoles and mobile, and it's also the foundation for Minecraft Education Edition. So if you wanted to create some education related add-ons, you could use that. In Minecraft Bedrock Edition, we have this concept of add-ons, which is a set of JSON and JavaScript that you'll be hearing about all over today that you can use to really deeply customize how Bedrock Edition works. We also have scripting APIs and those kinds of things. And so we're going to cover everything that you need to go get started to build on top of Minecraft Bedrock Edition. Although it's impossible to cover everything in 4 hours. I know that there's going to be a lot of topics that, you know, if you have comments on them, we can maybe do some follow-up YouTube videos if we don't get quite to the topic. So what can you build using add-ons on top of Minecraft Bedrock Edition? Well, first, inside the game, you can, of course, build some amazing worlds. You can do some really creative things with blocks, with command blocks, with redstone. There's been amazing, builds, whether you're just showing it to your parents on an iPad or whether you've spent hours and hours sort of recreating your town in Minecraft. There's, of course, amazing things that are at the heart of Minecraft that you can build inside the game. But if you want to add and extend how Minecraft works, then you can work outside the game. You can build custom blocks, custom mobs, entities, things like loot tables and jigsaw structures and user interface overrides and particles, custom items. You can write some custom game logic. And if you really want to get super involved, you can do some server integrations, customize how servers work so that they can maybe call out to external servers and do interesting things like that. So just a range of customization options. Now, typically what we see is that when people want to build a complete experience, they typically will mix and match a lot of these different elements together. So there's this Gray Wave Tower Defense add-on that I created that's on the YouTube channel, probably linked somewhere around here on your YouTube screen. That is essentially this tower defense add-on for Minecraft. And what it does is it actually pulls together a number of different elements to provide the experience. So the key to this is this concept of turrets, and that's at the center of it. We have this entity that is basically implements our turrets. Even though they look like blocks, they're actually implemented as entities, and we'll go into why a little bit later on today. But we have these turret entities. But in order to create those turret entities, you're going to need a crafting table, which is what we've provided through the fabricator block. The fabricator block is a custom crafting table that's introduced as a custom block inside of Minecraft. Now, in order to get the ingredients to create the fabricator, we need a gray ore block, which is spread throughout the world using a feature rule. So you can see how all these different elements work together to create a complete ecosystem and a complete experience. We've got custom blocks, custom items, custom entities, all working together to create a really nice add-on. So as you go along in your Minecraft Bedrock journey, you're going to want to understand how all of these elements can work together. Okay. So as I mentioned, it really starts on a spectrum of different capabilities you can extend. In game, you can do worlds, you can do redstone, you can do commands, and out of game, you can extend through custom packs, through JSON, assets, and Molang and scripting. So you can do a number of different cool, fun things with that. So you're probably going to hear a lot about JSON or JSON as we go and create different things inside of Minecraft. JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation, but really it's this format for doing different things that you can sort of all pull together. So this, you can see it on the right-hand side, we have this Minecraft apple. The Minecraft apple actually goes ahead and will then, yeah, that's right. No slides. Sorry about that. See, I told you this was going to be fun and interesting and all that kind of fun stuff. Here are the slides. This is the JSON and Minecraft apple. Let me just go back. I had some really awesome slides. They're great. Hold on just a second. All right, yeah, the Gray Wave add-on. Just showing you the Gray Wave add-on. These are all these elements working together. This is my favorite slide in the deck, actually. Just showing all the different elements working together. I love this kind of like, if you've ever seen those crime scene investigation boards, I love putting these together for my Minecraft add-ons. Anyway, this is the Gray Wave add-on. Sorry for showing my face for too long. Now we're on to the slides. All good stuff. Okay. All right. Okay, so drilling in. We were talking a bit about JSON and everything that you can do with JSON. So this is the Minecraft apple. It is implemented with JSON, and you can see that JSON syntax is implemented with these curly braces, and there's a number of different attributes of the apple that are defined in this JSON file. So we're defining the category, we're defining the texture, we're defining the display name and the like for that Minecraft apple. There's a number of different tags. We're tagging the apple as food, as you can see there, and it's got a number of different modifiers about what happens when you actually go ahead and eat the apple. So you'll get the feel of JSON syntax over time as you start to work with Minecraft. We recommend a good text editor for it. So VS Code, Visual Studio Code, is a really good editor for it. There's a really great plugin for Visual Studio Code called Blockception's Minecraft Bedrock Development plugin. That's also available that you can sort of work with as well. Now, in Minecraft, JSON files are typically annotated with this thing called format version. You can see it for the apple. It was last updated in 1.20.50. So that's the format version of Minecraft that was used to go create it. And yeah, that's a little bit about how that JSON works. Let's see. So let me just go pull this up real quick. Let's see. One of the cool things about Minecraft is if you go to github.com/mojang/bedrock samples, like so, one of the things you'll find is our GitHub repository of samples, but really what it is a lot of the source definitions that we use to define Minecraft entities. So if you select the behavior pack folder, you can see that inside of here, there's this entities elements, and you can see all the different files that are involved with this. So if you want a good set of samples for exploring the kinds of things that you can do to go ahead and customize how entities work, then you can go just peruse the GitHub Mojang Bedrock Samples repository and go from there. Cool. So if you haven't already, I think as you start your Minecraft journey, you're going to want to download the Bedrock Samples repository, have it handy, because it's a source of awesome examples for building things on top of Minecraft. Okay, so let's get back to the slides. We're working here with JSON. You want to go to github.com/mojang/bedrock samples. Awesome. Okay, another fundamental element of building on top of Minecraft is the concept of commands. And these are things that you can just run in game if you set it into creative mode, if you set to allow cheats. There's a whole range of different commands that you can use. And when you're building in game, you can use them for things like the command block. You can use them for things like redstone. Well, you can combine them with things like redstone to build some amazing contraptions using redstone and commands. We have some documentation on all the different commands that are available. There's lots of awesome tutorials for doing different things with commands and the like. One particular command stands out, and that's the execute command. So think of the execute command as a way to do bulk operations inside of Minecraft. So for example, in this case, I wanted to spawn a salmon on top of every fox that was in front of me. And so you can use this execute command to say, for every fox that you see, summon a salmon on top of them so that you can go do things on top of that. Just a couple quick questions. Can we get some method to add an entity property to a player so that they won't be overridden from another add-on? We'll talk a little bit about entity properties probably in the entity section, so we'll cover that there. That's right after this, helmed by yours truly. So yeah, we'll take a look at that. What's the best app to edit files on mobile? That's a great question. We're working on making mctools.dev, which we'll talk about later in this session, later in this day, available so that folks can go ahead and edit files on top of mobile. But unfortunately, I'm not probably familiar enough with the Android ecosystem. There might be versions of Visual Studio Code, code.visualstudio.com that you can run in the web, and those kinds of things. And then the final question, what can we use the fabricator block? That was a custom block that I put together that is part of that Gray Wave add-on that I had that really amazing slide for that you didn't see for the most part. But that is available. You can go see another YouTube video, and there's a link to the sample from that YouTube video if you want to go work with that. Okay, so we talked about commands, we talked about JSON. If you've ever wondered why sometimes it takes us a little bit longer to ship things, it's probably because we're arguing about the pronunciation of JSON inside the studio, whether it's JSON or JSON. But depending on my mood, it'll either be JSON or JSON. So I apologize for the mixed pronunciations throughout this tutorial. Okay. Commands are awesome. You can do a lot of great things with commands, but we also have a scripting infrastructure inside of Minecraft. Now, it's important to realize that scripting is not needed for all kinds of amazing builds that you're going to want to go build and create. So a lot of times I'll hear like, oh, scripting, I'm not necessarily a developer. And maybe people will be a little discouraged about when they hear about scripting because it implies that, yeah, you need to be a script developer in order to build some awesome things on top of Minecraft. It's not true. You can build some great things with commands. You can use Redstone, and there's a lot of things that you can do in JSON to actually go ahead and customize a lot of that infrastructure. So we have this API, this application programming interface. This is a set of capabilities that are exposed inside of scripting that you can then go ahead and use inside of your scripting environments. Now we say that Minecraft supports JavaScript, which is true, but there's this variant of JavaScript called TypeScript, and TypeScript provides a lot more sort of helpful rails on top of building your custom code that makes it more productive for you as a developer to go create JavaScript essentially. So as you're working with Minecraft, yes, Minecraft supports JavaScript, but you're probably going to be using that in the form of TypeScript, and we have a whole bunch of tutorials and helpers. We have a debugger for VS Code as well as a profiler for helping with that. Okay, moving right along. Inside of Minecraft, all your customizations are going to be organized into packs. So we have both behavior packs and resource packs. When you think about Minecraft, even when you're opening Minecraft on, let's say, an iPhone or something like that, when you start a new Minecraft world, it's going to load both like the server side and this client side. And the server side actually has all of the stuff about how the game works, how the world's loaded, the chunks are over here, the entities are over there, those kinds of things. And the client side actually has all of the information about how to render those experiences on your phone. So when you think about Minecraft, even if you're just playing a single player game on your device, there's a server side and there's a client side. And to customize the server side, we have behavior packs. To customize the client side, we have resource packs. And both of these use manifest.json files. Typically, when you're building something on top of Minecraft, you're going to want to have one behavior pack and one resource pack and maybe a world to go along with it to customize everything going on inside of Minecraft. And you'll see how that works in just a little bit. This is an important thing. This is probably also just really foundational to working on top of Minecraft. If you're working with Minecraft or you're working with Minecraft Preview, it's going to be stored in this kind of hard to reach, unfun folder inside of your Windows device. I'm speaking in terms of Windows devices right now. So if you actually want to see your Minecraft folder, which is going to be very important if you want to debug and those kinds of things, you have to open it like this. So let me just go open up the run window like so. Let me go drag this over here. So I have this %local app data packages, Minecraft UWP, something. Put that shortcut into Notepad, make sure it's handy. And what this will do is it'll open the Minecraft root folder. Be very careful when you're editing this because this is where all your data is stored and your worlds are stored and those kinds of things. If I go into local state games com.mojang, you can see a number of different folders here. You can see this development behavior packs. You can see this development resource packs. This will hold all the different custom packs that you've built. And you'll see this Minecraft Worlds folder, and there's a lot of obtuse names here. But inside of these world folders are the individual worlds that you've worked on. So as you're developing, sometimes things don't work. Your first stop should be to go into your com.mojang folder, go into your development resource packs, go into your behavior packs, and make sure it looks the way you're expecting it to look. That all the files that you're expecting to be in Minecraft are all there and look great and all that kind of good fun stuff. So important tip there. Okay, so because sometimes it can actually be a little bit, you can work out of those Minecraft folders as you're creating new things, but sometimes it's a little better to work in a separate folder and develop a workflow for actually getting your creations into Minecraft. So for example, in my case, let's say I'm going to build an add-on called the Dinosaur Punks. You're going to probably want to work on it in a separate folder outside of Minecraft. And you are going to want to go develop your behavior packs folder, and you're going to have a subfolder called Dinosaur Punks, and you're going to want to create a resource pack folder called Dinosaur Punks, where you're going to put different JSON files like your triceramon.json. Punk joke, yeah. Anyway, yeah, you're going to want to put all those files inside of your working project folder. You might have some scripts, you might have some worlds, and this is the thing that you're going to be working on. Then you're going to interoperate with that with your tools, Visual Studio Code, Blockbench, which we'll talk about, your image texture editors, your sound tools. You're going to want to work against that folder inside of Minecraft. And then when you're done making changes, you're going to want to push those changes, kind of copy them over, maybe do some builds and compilation. You're going to want to push that into your Minecraft deployment of choice, whether you're working with Minecraft or Minecraft Preview. Now, sometimes you're going to be working to go create custom worlds, whether you're building it in game or you're working with inside of the editor. So you're going to want to go pull those into your working project folder as you work. And maybe you want to use some source control like GitHub so you can share and work on this project with your colleagues. And then finally, when you're done and you're ready to share it with people, you can export that to MC add-ons or MC templates or MC worlds. So this is kind of a very common thing to do once you get into more advanced builds. You're going to want to set up your workflows and the like for doing that. And we'll have some guidance throughout the day on how you can set up standard workflows. The cool thing about this is that we have these different types of zip files that you can use to share your creations with other people. So an MC world file is just a zip file that basically contains your world, a bunch of data files, and all the packs that you've developed. An MC template is like an MC world, except it just causes this new project experience to be created. And then the other thing I'll point out is MC add-on files, which is basically just a zip of pack files that you can use to share with other people. So if you've built your Dinosaur Punks add-on and you want to share it with your friends, you can pack that into a zip file, and then as you're playing Minecraft, the Dinosaur Punks, the Triceramons, will be introduced into your world, and you can go from there. Okay, so let's talk very briefly about a tooling landscape. You know, tools are the things that will make it very easy for you to go create on top of Minecraft. So just to get started with some of the official tools from Mojang, we have the Minecraft editor, which is, you'll see a little bit later today, which allows you to edit Minecraft worlds with some really awesome tools for doing that. We have the Minecraft script debugger, which allows you to debug different types of JavaScripts. Also, it's got some monitoring features, so you can actually do, excuse me, a little bit of performance profiling and running commands and those kinds of things on top of Minecraft. We have mctools.dev, which is a website for getting started with Minecraft and also doing some validation, and we'll demo that in a second. And then we also have some core workflows stored on NPM. NPM, if you're not familiar, is called Node Package Manager, but it's this way for developers to share different artifacts, typically JavaScript, with one another so that they can build out different types of modules. And we have a link to aka.ms/tools for Minecraft with links to that kind of thing. It's not quite complete yet, so we'll add a number of other links in there as well. It takes you to the learning portal. There's some awesome community and open source tools. So Blockbench is used for model editing, and we'll see more of that in just a second. We have Chunker, which is used for Java to Bedrock world conversion. And as I mentioned earlier, Blockception is an awesome, the Minecraft Bedrock development add-on is a great add-on for Visual Studio Code to help you with your editing. It provides kind of like red squigglies, for example, grammar checking for the JSON files that you're going to go edit. There's also other awesome, amazing community open source projects. There's Regolith, which is a pack compiler for add-ons. There's Bridge, which has more JSON code editing and compilation. And the other really cool thing, I don't have a slide for this, but the other really cool thing that you'll see is that there's like this community of new libraries of, different JavaScript libraries and infrastructure for building things on top of Minecraft. So if you want to jumpstart with some JavaScript for doing game logic, there's, go search your communities, go search your GitHubs to go find more, Minecraft libraries that are open source that you can potentially use and contribute to. That's also awesome. So let's just get our first start in building something. And so to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to use Blockbench. So Blockbench is this community open source tool. It's built mostly by Jonas Peterson, which is this really foundational tool for everything that folks go build. And inside of Blockbench, what you'll see if we go to the plugins window is that we have an entity wizard, we have an item wizard, and a block wizard. These are plugins that you can add into your Blockbench experience that makes it possible for people to go ahead and go get a jump start on their project. So in our case, what we're going to do is we are just going to go use the item wizard, and we're going to run through that really quickly. This is a camp theme, so what we're going to want to go build is a marshmallow stick. I'm going to go select a sword. We're going to call this marshmallow stick, like so. And I'm just going to say this is, I guess, kind of like a shovel. I don't know, you shovel marshmallows into the fire. The cool thing about these item wizards is that you can customize all the different properties. So I don't necessarily want to let people melee attack with their marshmallow stick, but what we can do is we can make it a piece of food so that you can actually eat your marshmallows when you're done with it. And we're going to choose a 3D model like so. And then we're going to export this directly into our Minecraft folder. I'm going to give this a pack name of marshmallow stick like this. And click next. And then we're done. So I'm going to be super quick about customizing this because I'm running a little bit low on time. But let me just do this. You can see here I can go ahead and just resize the model like this. And let's go make this into our marshmallow. So I'm just going to move this upwards like so. And I'm going to connect these two parts just very super quickly, like this, and like so, and like that. Okay, and let's just go take a look at our UVs. This is how the custom model will apply to the texture. I'm doing this super quickly, but let's just go ahead and first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go take this color over here, and I'm going to just go paint the entire thing that color like this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the white color for our marshmallow. Actually, let me just go resize this just a little bit like so. And I'm going to take the white color and I'm just going to make our marshmallow look super delicious, maybe a little burnt on top, like this, like so. Hit save. Like this. All right, that's pretty good. We're running a little low on time. All right, so now I've got my marshmallow stick. Looks pretty good. Let's go spin up Minecraft. So as I was saying earlier, if we look in our Minecraft folder, if you go into development behavior packs, you can see that this is our marshmallow stick that we just added. Blockbench and the item wizard just stored it directly inside of Minecraft. And so if I click the play button and I create a new world, let's go create a new world, and we're going to call this camping, like so, camping, no I, and we're going to call this the marshmallow stick, and we're going to add both the behavior pack and the resource pack to implement our marshmallow stick, and we're going to turn cheats on so that we can give ourselves a marshmallow stick, and let's just make sure it's creative. Okay. And so that's just the process. We've built our first item inside of Minecraft using the item wizard. So while this is all loading, I'm going to start to take some questions. Is it possible for us to create entities like furnaces, chests? You can create custom furnaces, and well, you can create custom crafting tables. I don't know that you can create custom furnaces or chests or those kinds of things. We're always adding more behaviors, and you'll hear about that later in this session for doing those kinds of things. So let's go give ourselves a marshmallow stick, like so. And so now you can see we've got our interestingly toasted marshmallow on a stick, and we can even go ahead. Oh, we can actually go ahead and eat it. The eating is not necessarily in the right position, but yeah, there we go. We can see our custom item. Anyway, getting to questions. Can you choose how to make recipes for custom items? I don't know that we have a specific topic on that, but we can go into that in more detail. Next question, are custom biomes implemented? That's another session that we'll have coming up. Tomorrow we'll talk about the roadmap for biomes and what that looks like. Next question, what about the music format for Minecraft? What has changed, and is there anything that new audio offers? I think we use the OGG audio format for almost everything inside of Minecraft, and I don't know the specific capabilities, if those have changed or anything like that, but that's everything you can do from there. Can we get some method to add an entity? Oh yeah, we talked about entity. We'll talk about that in the next session for sure. So these are some links to some resources. We have an entire learning portal on learn.microsoft.com/minecraft/creator, where we have all of our documentation. We have this YouTube channel, which hopefully has a set of growing content for you to go use. Please like and subscribe. And then we have a number of different samples available on GitHub that you can get started with. There are a number of awesome Discords. So there's the official Minecraft Discord at minecraft.net/community. And there's also bedrock.dev, or the Bedrock add-ons Discord, which is a third-party community Discord, but there's a lot of awesome folks and a lot of awesome conversations about building on top of Bedrock in that Discord. So with that, it seems like we're out of questions, but I'll be here in the next session in about 4 minutes, and we'll take it from there, and we'll cover how to build custom entities on top of Minecraft. So I'll see you in 4, and meanwhile, go get a nice comfy drink and gather around the campfire for the next session. Thanks everyone for tuning into the first session, and see you soon. See you in just a little bit. Well, hello everyone, it's me again. I'm back and we are going to be talking about building your first entity on top of Minecraft. So just joining on to the previous session where we talked about the foundation, we talked about packs and behavior packs and resource packs and all that kind of good fun stuff. Well, now we're going to do a little bit more detail on how you can build your first entity inside of Minecraft. So cool. Yeah, so just digging in a little real quick and those kinds of things. Entities are really at the heart of building custom things on top of Minecraft. It starts with, custom models and custom visuals for the Minecraft things that you're going to go build. But Minecraft entities in Minecraft are also used for a number of interesting things. For example, they're used as pseudo blocks. So I talked about the Gray Wave turret defense add-on that we had before, and that was something that was designed for a tower defense thing where you've got these static towers in place. They look like blocks, but they're actually entities, and that's because entities support things like custom animations and custom behaviors, and they can shoot arrows and all that kind of good fun stuff. So in a lot of cases, and a lot of the things that you love inside of Minecraft, you'll see things that look like blocks, but they're actually entities that you can go work with. Sometimes some creators do some very advanced things with entities as well. They use them to store state, or they use them to store customizations, because you can actually key a lot of behaviors inside of Minecraft after what is happening with a mob or a monster or more. So lots of good fun stuff that you can do with entities and the like. As we talked about in the previous session and the intro session, when you think about something inside of Minecraft, you want to think in terms of the behavior or the server side of things and the resource or the client side of things. So on the behavior side of things, there's a lot of systems in place that we're going to cover for how entities work inside of Minecraft. And then on the resource side of things, of course, there's a lot of options for making your entity look really cool. There's an animation system, there's animation controllers, there's models, there's textures, there's render controllers. And of course, there's audio as well, so that you can customize how the audio works for your entity. So a lot of things to keep track of, and let's go dive in and see how this looks. At the heart of how a lot of things inside of Minecraft work is this concept of a component. A component is really this atomic element that adds a particular configuration or a behavior to a particular item. And Minecraft entities are the most powerful in Minecraft. There's over 170 different components for entities that you can add into it to customize how it works or how it behaves or those kinds of things. In fact, with 1.21.90 preview, I think, which came out on Tuesday, we added 3 new components that you can actually use on top of your Minecraft entities. Not every week that we add 3 new components that you can use, but it was a good week. And we added some more stuff for like leashability and for not having a mob work inside of peaceful and those kinds of things. So we're always adding more components. And these are the things that are really at the heart of how entities work. You can see a list of some here. I just started at A and got through AT in terms of listing them, but you can see certain things like the attack component, which is of course very important for how an entity will decide to attack something else. So that's foundational and the like. We have a number of different AI components that describe the certain types of behaviors, AI, if you will, that an entity has. So for example, if you've got a zombie mob that has a melee attack, the behavior component for melee attack will describe certain things about how it decides to look for targets and how it decides to give up after a while, or what motivates it to go look for a target, those kinds of things. So there's lots of flavor and there's lots of interesting detail in the components of Minecraft. Now let's go see how these all work together. And this is going to be a little complicated, but bear with me. Okay, so the first thing that you have for your entity inside of your entity JSON file is this initial configuration for entity JSON. And so there it's just setting a bunch of different properties on the components that you want to be the foundation for how that entity will work. So certain things like maybe its display name or those kinds of things are at the core attributes for an entity. And if you look at items, which is another system that we'll talk about later today, items is just this. You can only just set the default state of components for an item, and that's about it. There's no conditional logic or state machines or all that kind of good fun stuff. Entities have a lot more sophistication for those kinds of things. So next up is the concept of component groups. This is just different configurations of components that you can add onto it. So for example, a lot of mobs inside of Minecraft have both like a child state and an adult state. And so there's like a component group for child, which will set maybe it's smaller in size and it's got different behaviors as a child versus when it grows up, then there's a different component group state for that, which will say that, which will like define all the properties for when that entity is an adult. Then there's this thing where certain actions can kind of influence and change the state of things inside of Minecraft. So as I was mentioning earlier, there's two component groups for a child and for adult. Maybe there's a trigger that after an entity has lived in the world for a certain time, this will trigger a set of behaviors that can transition an entity from the baby state into the adult state. It can also set properties. I know that that was a question that was asked in the previous session. Properties are used to further conditionalize and configure how entities work, like that. And let's go. And then you can also interoperate and trigger different events through things like commands. So if you want to run a command that forces an entity to grow up from being a baby into being an adult, you would run that command to trigger an event, which will then kick off the setting of a component group that makes an entity an adult. And then there's a whole other system as well that I'm not going to go into called behavior animations and server animations. It's a little bit of a confusing name because they're not really animation related. It's just a different way to trigger events and commands on top of Minecraft entities. You should know that it exists. If you're super advanced, you can totally get into it, but it's just another system for doing that. And while I'm here, I should mention this language called Molang. Molang is essentially an expression language that you're going to use when customizing the look and feel and some of the server-side behavior of how mobs work. So Molang is essentially an expression language, which allows you to set different equations for typically things like animations and the like. So if you think about a mob with an arm, right? Like you've got this arm that's going to go back and forth like this. Well, there's like a mathematical equation that will position the different bones in that arm based on whether it's flexing or contracting, essentially. And that's going to be a mathematical equation typically. So you can use Molang to access a number of the different properties about that particular entity and then factor them into equations so that maybe the arm will flex quicker if it's healthier or something like that. Maybe that's not the best example, but you get the idea. You should understand Molang as an important ingredient for doing things like animations on top of Minecraft. Speaking of things like animations, the look and feel of a mob, it's configured by a number of different things on the resource side. So there's a core definition for the entity resource. There's this thing called render controllers, which can be used to implement certain behaviors about how textures swap and change. So for example, if you look at the cat mob inside of Minecraft, one of my favorite mobs, there's like 15 variants of different types of cats. And that's all configured by swapping out the different textures using a render controller. Of course, there's also your model, your animations, your animation controllers, and your textures. And typically, you're probably going to want to use Blockbench for actually editing those. Blockbench has some awesome tools for being able to configure your Molang expression or to set different timeline points for how animations should work. So it's a very flexible tool for doing a lot of that. And then, of course, audio is another important facet of being able to customize the sound and those kinds of things. We actually have an awesome video series, Making the Goblin Chef, that's linked on the bottom from someone who's got a bit more experience in doing, Peter Chef, who's got more experience in building some really awesome looking mobs. So he takes you through the background and how to think about creating a mob, and it's a really great video that you should take a look at. But, as I've shown before, you can also, do some pretty cool things with just Blockbench by itself, even if you're not super well trained. At least you can get a good start in it. And that's what I love about Minecraft is you can do a little bit of coding, a little bit of art, a little bit of modeling. It's all part of the fun that I hope you will all enjoy as well. Okay, so let's just go ahead and dive into building and working with an entity and showing you some of the sites in creating your first custom entity on top of Minecraft. Okay, so what I am going to do is I am going to go to the browser, and I'm going to go to this website called mctools.dev like this. And this is a website that allows you to get started with building some simple things on top of Minecraft. I probably did most of the code on this website, and so apologies in advance if there's bugs and those kinds of things. But one of the ambitions for this website is to hopefully make it simpler and easier for folks to go create custom mobs on top of Minecraft. In our case, what we want to go do, carrying the camp theme forward, one of the things that you'll probably experience at a campfire is some ghost stories, which of course implies that campfires must have ghosts near them. So today what we're going to go build is a custom ghost. So on this website, I'm going to start with probably the closest analog to a ghost is the creeper. And so I'm going to use the creeper as my foundation for working on my ghost like this. And so let's just call this camp ghost like so. And we're going to go click OK to get started. And so this is going to go start a new project. It's going to be based on those samples from the Mojang Bedrock samples that repository that I showed in the previous intro presentation of all the different vanilla samples. And so we've got our campfire ghost here, and we can edit the different facets of this. And as you can see, there's like things like the model, which we can edit on the visual side, and then there's things like the type that we can edit on the behavior side of it. And you can see a lot of the different component states and the like. We have a number of different component groups for the different stages. Because it started from a creeper, we have all of the behaviors of a creeper that you're probably familiar with, things like charging and exploding and the like. So we've inherited all those component groups. We have a ghost that now has who's a fan of exploding, let's say, and those kinds of things. But let's get started with customizing the visuals of our ghost, just to de-creeperify it. So one of the options I'm going to use here is to download a Blockbench model. And so what this will do is it'll download a BB model file, which is Blockbench's format for storing all of the customizations for a particular model inside of Blockbench. So I'm going to go open that up inside of Blockbench, and I clicked it. Let's see, it should probably pop up in just a moment. Like so. Let me just go find Blockbench. Should be right here. Here we go. Let me go close this down just real quick. Do this again one more time. And it should open inside of Blockbench. I'm going to just close it just to make absolutely sure. All right. Oh, there we go. Okay. Yeah, here we are. Okay. Sorry about that. It's over in another tab. All right. I just was missing the tab. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do to make this a ghost, ghosts tend to float and not tend to walk. So sorry, creeper, we're going to be deleting your legs. You can see in the outliner side, we've got the body, we've got the head, and all these are the different elements of working on the, these are the different elements of working on the creeper. So we're just going to go delete all those, and then we're just going to make this a little bit more ghost-like. I'm going to resize this. I'm going to hit the S key to go change the shape of this, and we're just going to make the head basically a little bit bigger. And then I'm going to select this interior part, which I guess is the body of the creeper, and we are going to go put this down a little bit, and let's just like resize it. That's not what I want, like so, and just resize it like this. We're not going to get super fancy. Obviously, if you're doing this for real, you can spend hours and hours and hours perfecting this. Since I only have about 10 minutes left, less than 10 minutes, we'll probably keep it a little quicker. Okay, so now we're done with our basic shape for it, and now we're just going to go paint it. Blockbench actually has some awesome tools for being able to, edit the image. So in this case, I'm just going to blow out the, I'm going to go. Let me actually first, let's go to the saturation. I'm going to go blow out this, I'm going to desaturate it. And then I'm going to go adjust the contrast so that it's just a little bit, oh yeah, probably the brightness, just to amp it up to that ghostly. Let me just do that again. Sorry about that. All right, now it's this ghostly white. Okay, let me go back to the edit phase and just make sure that my UVs, these mappings of where the paint applies to a particular mob, are correct. So you can see that there's 2 UV maps for the different shapes of the mob. Okay, so now I'm just going to hit the M key to go select some of the texture that we've got, and I'm going to just go paste that and place, and I'm just going to paste this all over just so that our ghost has a number of different customizations like this. Let me just do this. So this is building our first mob, and I'm just, being a little heavy with the texturing, but let's just go do this like so. Okay, and then the final touch is I'm just going to select a region. I don't think ghosts have mouths. I don't know. We'll see. Your ghost can have a mouth. It's all cool. But let me just merge all the, oh, sorry. Let me merge this down first. Make sure everything is merged into our texture. Then I'll get rid of the mouth. Okay. Merge down. All right. Hit M. Okay, copy. Paste. All right. And there we go. Now the mouth is gone. Okay. The other interesting thing you should know, the body is a little bit too big. 1 pixel down. Okay. The other thing that you should know is that these specially named elements, the body and the head, Minecraft will tend to animate those respectively. So, you know, when a ghost is looking at you, you'll see it'll look cool. Trust me. Okay. That's not what I want to do. Let's go hit File, Save. Okay. So now we've saved our BB model. And let's go back to our download folder, and you should see that, yes, the BB model. So now I'm just going to drag this back into mctools.dev, and it's going to go integrate it. And you can see what it's done here is it should have overridden the texture, so now it's got this ghost texture that we're looking at. So now we've got our basic ghost. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go customize a little bit of the behavior of the ghost. And MC Tools has these basic editors for editing the events and the components and those kinds of things. It's still a work in progress. It's not perfect. Sometimes it can lead to configurations that don't quite work. So if you have feedback, leave comments in the GitHub. But in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the actions, and I'm going to go to the start exploding action, which is basically the event that will be run inside of Minecraft. And I'm just going to add an action that says, when the start exploding behavior takes place, I'm going to go run a command that's going to go say boo scary like this, and we're just going to go run that and go from there. So now I'm ready to run this inside of Minecraft. I'm going to go download a flat world with packs and open this up inside of Minecraft. Let me go exit out of your world. So when you're working with mctools.dev, a way of working is that you can basically download a flat pack, MC world file, which you heard about in the last session, with all of your content embedded inside of it, which makes it useful for trying out some simple things. If you want a more advanced workflow, you're going to want to save this project locally and iterate more rapidly. But certainly for live stream's sake, it's a good thing to go do. So here I am, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go give myself, I'm going to summon our ghost like this. Okay, so you can see that we've got our custom camp ghost, and yeah, there you go. There's our little camp ghost. I'm gonna go change it into survival mode like this, survival like so, and so now the ghost is gonna come and attack me. And what you should say is, okay, see, when it's decided to start exploding, it said boo scary and all that kind of good fun stuff. Now the final touch, what is a camp experience without the sound of a ghost? I mean, the sound is really what makes a ghost, to be honest. So what I'm going to go do is I'm going to go to C projects like this and go to entities. Oh, yeah. And I'm going to go download a sound effect that I added and go add this scary.ogg file as a new sound. Let me put my headphones on so I can enjoy the sound with you. And you can hear,
ooh, scary.
Yeah, I'm clearly not very, my sound skills
are scary.
Almost as bad as my coding skills. All right, so we're gonna go back into the camp ghost, and we're just gonna come back to our action, and we're gonna go to the start exploding, and we're gonna change this command from that to play sound, scary, and then just play that for all players. Now there's a number of different ways you can actually go ahead and set the sound for a custom entity. MC Tools doesn't support all of them, but we'll be adding support soon to custom sounds, effects, and those kinds of things. So in this case, we've got our camp ghost and camp ghost with the most, and we're gonna go work with this inside of Minecraft. And let's see if, let's go summon the camp ghost. All right, cool. All right, and then gotta back up a little bit and game mode survival, like so. All right, so.
Ooh, scary.
That's horrible. Okay, well, that's just a quick overview of customizing our custom entity. Let me just take you a little bit on a tour of some other sites inside of MC Tools. As I mentioned, there's a whole bunch of different components that you can see inside of Minecraft, and inside of MC Tools, you can edit a lot of the different properties. So, this is the logic for how a mob targets something nearby, and you can see there's a whole bunch of different behaviors. In fact, this kicks off that start exploding when it comes across a different type of mob. So you can just see all the different, here's the health values that we could go crank up if we wanted to go crank up the damage level of them. So there's a lot of things here to go customize. We're trying to always make this a little bit simpler for folks in getting started with building entities on top of Minecraft. So that was just a quick run through of building entities on top of Minecraft and everything you can do on top of there. It is the most deep topic because entities are so important, but hopefully whether you're using the Blockbench Entity Wizard or whether you're using MC Tools or whether you're coding it by hand, at least creating some simple mobs is a great way to get started with building things on top of Minecraft, and maybe the first stop in your journey working outside of Minecraft to go build some customizations and some add-ons for Minecraft. Going to questions, what's the most complicated thing you guys find making an add-on? That's a great meta question. I think the biggest complicated thing is that there are so many different systems. There's particles, there's features, there's entities, there's items, there's jigsaw structures, and they all have a lot of power to them. And it really helps to know a little bit about everything. And so I think what makes things complicated building an add-on is just that need to know, kind of a little bit of everything on top of Minecraft as you're building it. Jigsaw structures is probably the thing I would find is like, it's still in preview. It is so powerful, but you have to have this mental model for how you're building a jigsaw structure. I don't know that there's any that way that we can make it simpler, but jigsaw structures are it takes some mental planning and all that kind of fun stuff to build an awesome jigsaw structure. Next question, are there any plans to build a Copilot type chatbot for building behavior packs? We've been doing some experimentation. We're kind of focused right now on just simplifying tools so that people can get started in building and customizing them, so that you can tweak the health value for an entity just using a slider and those kinds of things. Lucy has the question, client items when? I get it. Yeah, we want, someday we'll probably have some, for example, client-side experiences, deeper experiences, maybe some client-side scripting and the like, but not in the short or medium term. And then next question, I have what's the difference between making an add-on versus making mods for Java Edition? If I compare the coding stuff, for as informal language. When you're building an add-on using supported like JSON formats for Java Edition, you're creating a data pack. And a data pack in a lot of ways is kind of similar to a behavior pack on top of Bedrock Edition. So there's a lot of similarities there. The JSON syntax will be different, significantly different at times. Sometimes it's only subtly different, which actually makes it a little harder to know where the differences are. But that can be very similar. There are a lot of communities that have built some awesome mod frameworks on top of Java Edition. They're not officially supported, but there are some rich APIs in Java for building custom mods for Java Edition. And those will tend to resemble a little bit the TypeScript APIs or the JavaScript APIs we've added in Bedrock Edition. So there's some similarities there, but typically in a lot of those mod experiences, the API sets are vast, even more vast than the JavaScript or TypeScript that we have on top of Minecraft. So there's some similarities at the outer level, but unfortunately, and for better or for worse, they're just a little bit different. So final question, are there any plans to make blocks that work like I can't quite see the question. I'll see if I can get to it. Are there any plans to make blocks that work like Amber? So that I don't know that I can necessarily understand what you mean by that. It's probably a me problem for sure. So I don't know how to answer that question. And then the final thing, how do you merge the entity and items to open it on the same world? If you use a tool like mctools.dev, you can certainly add more items into this project and have a pack that integrates the two. I know that Giannis for the entity item and block wizard also added a new option so that you can merge multiple different creations together. Well, all right. That wraps up this session for everything on building custom entities inside of Minecraft. You'll probably still see some more as we go throughout the day. And stay tuned. The next session is building awesome things inside of Minecraft Editor. So thanks for dropping in, and see you. Up next will be Bryant Hawthorne, who will be talking about the Minecraft Editor. Thanks for attending. See ya.
Hello, my name is Bryant Hawthorne. I am a product manager on the creator team, focusing on creator tools and editor. Today we're going to just have a casual chat. We're going to make some s'mores, probably tell some No? Oh, we're talking about editor today. That's actually probably why you're here, because it says editor right on the time slot. So let's dig in. So today we're going to talk about, hey, what is editor? What can editor do? I'm going to do a little demo to hopefully prove that point of what it can do, and talk a little bit about the future of editor. So first of all, hey, what is editor? Editor is an in-engine multi-block editing experience built on an extensible framework. We can really think of it as what you see is what you get. Those are the scenarios that we are primarily focusing on. So that was a lot of words, probably confusing. Let's dig into that a little bit more. So it's part of Bedrock. It is a different mode that actually ships with the client. You can access it through a desktop shortcut or directly through the launcher. So in December, we actually released to retail, added a Creator Tools tab inside of Launcher within Bedrock that you can launch Editor directly. It contains lots of tools for large block operations. So unlike Creative Mode within Bedrock, which is a block-by-block creative mode. This allows tools where you can have brushes and selections where you can do large block operations. In addition, we've made it so creators can build their own tools inside of Editor directly. So if you have a specific workflow or a tool that, hey, Editor doesn't support it today, we've actually made it so you can build tools directly inside of Editor. And we want to make this more than just a terrain building tool. And so you can see the image here. This is vibrant visuals. And so a lot of JSON editing, you don't really know what you're getting until you jump in the game. Editor allows you to manipulate a lot of these things like vibrant visuals, that it's updating JSON in real time and actually showing you what that looks like. And so let's dig into that a little bit more, starting out, what can Editor do? So we're going to go into a scenario for vibrant visuals. So in this case, this is a build that we're showing that is still experimental. Vibrant Visuals is now in preview, so you won't have to go through this step. But we're turning Vibrant Visuals on. Then we're jumping directly into Editor here. So let's say you want to build like a Mars map where the sky is kind of red, it's a little eerie, makes you feel like you're in space. You can do that. You go to View, Deferred Lighting settings. In this case, we're going to go to color grading and start adjusting the color grading of the sky. So we're going to make it a little bit more red. Feels a little bit more like Mars here. In the builds today, you can actually directly export the JSON. We're doing a lot of investment into MC Tools integration that Mike has talked about. In this case, we have added the integration where with one click, you can generate a resource pack, which is super cool. It takes a lot of the complex nature out of that. With another click, you can actually turn this into an MC project, MC Tools project. From here, you can actually directly export a world. So in this case, we're going to say, hey, we want to turn this into a flat world. It's going to generate that as a world inside of Minecraft with those resource packs already generated. And so we're going to just launch directly into that. And just like that, you can see your Mars map. And so trying to take a lot of the complexity out of that whole workflow to make it easier. This is exactly what we mean when we say what you see is what you get. Another example that I wanted to show is our integration with Realm. So this is another thing we recently invested in. We're seeing a lot of people downloading worlds and then directly putting those in their Realm and testing them in different platforms. So in this case, I'm an editor. I'm just taking a basic brush and just kind of proving that, hey, this is working in real time here. So we brushed on the ground. I'm dropping a few pigs here. And then on that right-hand side, this is our Publish to Realms pane. So you can see the editor is awesome realm that I'm publishing this directly to. I'm now going into just regular Bedrock mode and hitting play here. I'm launching my realm directly. And after this loads, you'll see that, hey, this is what I just edited. So just in a matter of seconds, you can actually have big swooping changes into your world, and then you can publish that. So this is really good for cross-platform testing if you want to see what a world feels like on your phone, on Xbox, or even if you're like, hey, I want to build a big mountain, put some skeletons on it, and battle these skeletons with my friends. Hey, you can do that in seconds now, which is pretty powerful. So what else can editor do? I'm not going to go through these in detail, but as we talked about, kind of broad strokes, brushes, rich terrain tools. We're going to get into a little bit in the demo of kind of structure management. We talked about vibrant visuals. And then the coolest part with editor is you can actually test your worlds. You can export that. And like we showed with the realms, you can put that directly in your realm. So you can do something with this and hopefully take some of the technical complexity out of that. So we're showing the Arc-Day Triumph here. This shows up a couple of places. Editor just does a really good job building structures like that. And so we're going to go through a demo today, and I'm going to show you a simple way to build something like the Arc-Day Triumph. So let's dig in here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I usually fly around and try to find the area that I want. Because I'm going to be building more of a structure, it doesn't really matter what my terrain is here, but something that's relatively flat. So this looks like a decent place to start. So what I'm going to do first is go to selection in my marquee selection here. And I am going to actually grab the adjacent block target. I'm going to come here and expand this. And what I'm going to be doing is just kind of clearing out this terrain just to give myself a little bit more of like a canvas to start building with. So from here, I'm going to be using a combination of just kind of the UI as well as keyboard. When I do use keyboard, I'm going to hopefully tell you what I'm doing just so you can follow along with this. So in this case, I hit delete, trying to delete some of that terrain. The next thing I'm going to do is, hey, that looks a little funny with just kind of blocked out. Doesn't really matter for my build, but I'm going to just brush over that in general to make it look a little bit more smooth, just so it doesn't look like I literally carved out a cube in the earth. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to select just a grass block, and then I'm going to mask this. I'm going to change my shape. Right now it's ellipsoid. I'm going to increase the radius just to make things a little bit faster. And then I'm just literally going to paint this into the earth here. So that looks like a pretty good place to just start building. Another thing that I'm paying attention to is my coordinates on the top right. You can see my coordinates, and that just kind of helps me understand, like, hey, where am I starting building, looking at the positive and negative X and Z axes here. So next thing I want to do, Arc-Day Triumph is largely a big cube. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to make the X and Z, let's start with 23 here. 23 seems like a decent place. The Arc-Day Triumph is actually a little bit taller than it is wide. So I am going to make that 30, and I am going to, let's change this a little bit so it's a little bit more centered here. Cool. Next thing I want to do is I want to fill this. I don't like any of the blocks for the Arc-Day Triumph on my current hotbar. So I'm going to come in here and I am going to switch to quartz. Quartz is a pretty good, just whitish block that will look good for the Arc-Day Triumph. So I'm going to use the fill here. I can also use Control F. I'll be doing that mostly throughout the rest of this. And then the Arc-Day Triumph, it has that little top kind of thing at the top there. I am going to come here. I'm going to hit Control. I misclicked, so let's try that again. Come over here. I can hit Control click, and then I can expand this by one block on each side. So that's going to give it that nice little topper thing. So let's do that. Try not to misclick. The cool thing with this is if I do misclick like that, I can actually undo my selection. So that's something that we recently added, which was game changing. So you weren't constantly being like, oh man, I misclicked. Okay, next thing is on top of the little topper are the little blocks that make it look more like a castle. I can easily repeat these with the repeater tool. I'm going to go to grid repeat. I know that this is 23 long, so let's repeat it 12 times. I actually don't need the X here, so let me get rid of the X first. Or sorry, the Y. I can repeat that 12 times, and then I want a space in between each of those, so let's change the X and Z. Oh, I don't want space at 12, I want space at 2. Let's do that. Boom. So you can see this is a really powerful tool to just any type of patterns. I can easily just repeat them directly in here. I don't want these middle ones, so what I'm going to do is select all of those in between. I'm hitting the delete button, and now it looks just like a castle, which is pretty cool. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some guides. Guides really help on structures like this. Just know, hey, where's the center block? I can use really any block for this. A lot of people use wool. I'm just going to use blue ice because it's already here. First thing I'm going to do, again, I know this is 23, so if I have, and I'm looking at the z-axis here, 12 will actually put me directly into the center. There, that 12th block. So I can move this over and I can fill this with blue ice. And this is just going to give me a guide where, hey, that last block there is going to be the center block. I want half of kind of what I had before. So I'm just going to say 15 on the y-axis here. And I'm going to fill this in. Right now I'm looking in the positive X direction. I mentioned that I like doing that to kind of orient myself just because I know, hey, if I am modifying the size or origin in here, I know what direction I'm going. So I'm going to take these guides and I want to duplicate these in on the other side that I'm going to be doing a lot of my building. So let me add this, make sure I select all those. Now I'm just copying it. So I just did a Control-C, which feels very familiar. And then I'm going to go to this side and paste preview. So you can see it's going to be oriented to where I copied it. I simply come over here with 90 degrees, and I can just stamp that on if I actually align it correctly. Boom. There we go. So it is stamped on. So I'm going to use those in just a second. The reason I'm doing that now is I'm going to add a little bit more detail, and then I want to use those guides to actually carve through this to add the legs. So the next thing I'm going to do is add some stairs just to give a little bit more polish to this. So the first thing I'm going to do is come over to my block picker, and I'm going to add some quartz stairs. So I can do that here. And then I'm going to add these to the top. So I want to switch my target back to adjacent mode here. And then I am going to just pull this so it is matching that overhang area. So boom, did that. And then I'm just going to fill that. So you'll see it looks a little weird because the stairs are kind of in the what you'd typically orient the normal stairs for. Here, there we go. The cool part is we actually recently shipped a feature called Workbench that allows you to hover over a block that has modifiable properties. And if you're hovering over those, you can see how that left pane is changing. So I can simply hit Shift Control left click. And now I'll go to the side so you can see that better. And it oriented that exactly how I wanted, which is pretty cool. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this whole set of stairs here, go to Paste Preview. Oops, we're still at 90 here. And then I am going to add these a little bit lower. So when we add those or carve through the stairs, we'll just carve through the or carve to make the legs of the Arc de Triomphe, we're going to carve through the stairs directly. I'm actually going to add one at the bottom, but this one I actually want to go back to Workbench. I'm going to come and select these. I'm going to go back to Block Target. I'm going to select these, and then I am going to modify the properties again. So again, kind of same thing I did before, Control-Shift-Click, and now that's exactly how I want them. Now to make this so it is going around the entire thing, I can simply do what I did with the stairs where I can copy that. I can go back to Paste Preview, switch it to 90 degrees, and then stamp that on. So for the sake of time, I'm only going to be focusing on these two faces right here. You can kind of imagine how I would be doing this all the way around the Arc de Triomphe, but for the sake of time, I'm just going to focus on these two faces here. Next thing I'm going to do is carve this. And so what I'll do, there's a couple different ways I can go about this. One is I can use selection and brushes and just carve it directly through. If you're familiar with CAD software or other software like that, you kind of think of these primitives of, hey, I have a cube, I'm going to carve through with these other primitives, and you can get these very complex shapes doing that. So the next thing I'm going to do is take the brush. I'm going to do this with a cylinder. I'm going to carve the cylinder through here, and I am going to basically change the extrude direction to the x-axis, so it will flip directly here. And then I'm going to make this uniform, but increase the height as long as I can. So I simply just need to click here, hit delete, and it's going to go partially through there. I can click this again, but another tool I want to show you is our extrude tool. So let me get rid of this selection so you can see what I am doing here. So with the extrude tool, we have add and remove. In this case, I want to decrease the blocks here. I'm just going to increase the layer count. And so with one click, I can come in here and select that, and it will extrude all the way through this, which is pretty cool. Next is I want to start making those legs. And so I can come in here and make another selection. I'm going to go all the way down here. And because we added those stairs, I actually have to go towards myself one block, and I'll extrude all the way through here, delete that out, boom. So starting to look like the Arc de Triomphe, which is pretty cool. I'm gonna repeat the same things I did right there on this side. So I'm gonna go back to my brush. This time I want to have my extrude direction in the the Z axis. So again, this is where that compass is really helpful. I'm gonna delete this. This gets a little bit more tricky because we already have the extrude that we did before. We can fix that by simply adding a offset. So in this case, I'm just gonna do an offset of -5 and click right there and delete that. And then I can go back to my extrude tool. The settings are already going to persist, and I just click. Now, one more selection to cut through to add the remainder of the legs. So I'm going to come in here and make this selection volume just like I did before. Come in here, make this go all the way through, delete that, and boom! So it looks pretty cool like that. So I'm just going to add a little bit more details on this just to kind of show different ways we can make this look nice and pretty. So I'm going to get rid of the selection volume just so that's not cluttering that up. We're going to make sure we're on an adjacent target here. I'm going to select this entire thing, go back to my quartz block. Let's fill that out with Control F. And now let's go to the block target, and what I'm going to do here is just delete this, adding those nice little frames that you see in the Arc de Triomphe. I'm going to add this a similar thing right below it too, to add a little bit more detail. So again, fill, and I'm going to change my target to my block target and select these, delete. Now I want this on the other side. I can copy what I just did, or I can rebuild it. In this case, I'm just going to use paste preview again. I don't want any rotation there. I can stamp that in. So looking pretty good. The last thing I'm going to do for detail here is actually, let's take this and put it on the other side. I did say I was going to make two sides of this look pretty. So let me show you how you can actually modify this on both sides. So I'm going to rotate this 90, quickly come in here, stamp that. Now the last thing I'm going to do is just add a little bit more detail. So I'm going to come into my brush. I am going to add just the single block brush. This is a really powerful brush where instead of going to crosshair mode, you can just paint with a single brush. You can see I have that offset still. So we persist those. So in this case, I'm just going to come back. I want the adjacent block, and I can come in and just decorate this. If I had a little bit more time, I would have a little bit more persistent. Nice view. The last thing I want to show you, which is pretty cool, we already showed a repeat tool. I am going to select this and show you what you can do with mass structures like this, where I can come in, go into my repeat tool, and basically make very, very cool complex structures with things like this. So there you have it. That is Editor in a nutshell. The last thing I wanted to talk about very quick before we go to Q&A is, hey, what's the future of Editor? A lot of cool things we can do. The one that we are about to start working on is prefabs. You can think of these as complex structures. We've talked to a lot of creators about, hey, making structures really hard. We usually do an asset world, thousands of structures. We want prefabs to be similar to how users and creators work in tools like Unity or Unreal Engine, where you can take structures, you can have local instances, global instances, you modify something. So like in the Arc de Triomphe, if I modified one of those, you could see that change propagate throughout. So whole bunch of other things that we're thinking about investing in here. Definitely reach out to us in Discord if you have strong opinions or you see something on there that grabs your attention and you are very excited. So cool, let's move on to Q&A here. So question from Q. Hello, do you plan to update Jigsaw generation to have the structures around it? So in terms of editor in Jigsaws, like we mentioned, we're investing in things like prefabs and structures as a whole. We think Jigsaws are a really interesting thing to integrate into Editor. Again, the what you see is what you get. If we could actually see the Jigsaw structures directly in Editor and see how changes propagate into Editor, there's some really powerful things there. So we're definitely thinking about Jigsaws and kind of, hey, what we can do there and alongside of generation in general. Cool. Let's see if there's any other questions here. Nope. Okay. Well, I can talk a little bit more about the future of Editor as we're going here. The last thing I wanted to highlight is tool integration. So we showed the example of MC Tools .dev integration. We think there's other integration points like Blockbench and Chunker to make it even easier for creators to work across other tools and their workflows. And so that's it largely from... there are a few more questions here that I totally missed here. So Neverland Sandbox, any chance there is an OBJ exporter option in Editor? So we've talked about this a lot. Some of us on the team have backgrounds in CAD, and we've talked about, oh man, it would be really cool to have OBJ or STL, and then being able to do things like that, both import as well as export. And so it's definitely something on our roadmap of thinking about. And then let's grab one more here is Team Red Studio. Can Editor support pen and touch import? Right now, Editor is just on keyboard and mouse. It's something that we've gotten a lot of requests on, hey, can we get this in mobile? Maybe in the future. Right now, we just want to make sure that we're providing value to creators on the mouse and keyboard. And then maybe in the future someday that touch or even iPad with stylist support would be something interesting, but stay tuned for the future there. So we're running a little bit low on time. So thank you all for listening to me ramble about Editor. I love what we're doing. If you have strong thoughts of, hey, the direction we should go, like I said, reach out to Discord, and thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Gunnar Headley. I'm an engineer on gameplay systems.
And I'm Steven Scott. I'm a product manager on gameplay systems.
Today, we are going to be showing you how to make some custom blocks in Minecraft. So first, As you know, Minecraft is a game about blocks, and there's a lot of things that vanilla blocks do for you right now, but there's probably some things that you want blocks to do that you can't do today. So that's kind of where custom blocks come in. There's a bunch of different ways that you can make your own custom blocks, and we're going to be showing you some how to do one today. We are going to be making a block. Oh, there we go. Yes, we're going to be making a block. So, as you can see, there's a couple different blocks that you can make. This is just one of the examples that we're showing you. This is a eucalyptus wood that we created. It's, as you can see, very vibrant and rainbow colored. You can do this today with the features that we provide for you. You can do the same thing with wood, like you can strip it with scripting that we can show you, and you can also make your own sapling with a place feature that we've recently released. So we're going to be making for you today a custom leaf pile. The leaf pile has a couple different properties that we want for it. First, when you place it on the ground, you can use bone meal to increase the pile size. You can also jump on the leaf pile to make it squish its leaves. And then you can also see the particle changes, or particles, when it does change.
All right, we're gonna do this live, so we'll see how this goes. But we believe, okay. So the way that we usually like to start when we're doing our own custom blocks is the same way that you can. So all of the process we're gonna do is something that is available to you. And I guess the unique thing is everything that we're showing is going to be not in experimental as of this week's preview. So first, I like to start with a TypeScript starter. Because our block is going to have more advanced logic, we usually start with the TypeScript setup, and then we add the block and its geometry to it. So for now, we'll just call this one, we'll call it Creator Camp Live. And I want to set this to use Bedrock Preview. And right off the back from mctools.dev, we have a lot of options, a lot of places that we can change some of the defaults. So we're going to do that now. So inside of the project, we're already on the latest beta. I actually want to be on stable. So we're going to use the stable version of the APIs. As I said, no experimental will be had here. And then we've already got our Bedrock Preview version. So what we'll do with this is we are just going to come up to here. Actually, I'll come into here for a second. We also include a main.ts, which you'll see us fill out with a lot of the custom component and events that we'll need to be able to do the cool things like bone meal this block and to be able to stomp the block. Okay, so we're going to export to a folder on this device. And we'll just put it here in a new folder that we'll call Creator Camp Block. Okay, and it's there. So what I will do is I will show you that folder. And we're just going to open a PowerShell window here. I'll bring this one back over to that screen. And the one thing that we want to do is we want to do an install. So this will go through and create all of the dependencies and node modules and all the stuff that you're not going to have to see for yourself, but is important to actually make the whole process go.
And one of the questions from chat from Gene Majid is stable on preview really stable? There is a difference sometimes on preview. Sometimes we release things to experimental, meaning it is not entirely stable that we agreed upon yet, but there are things that once they get out of experimental, then we consider them more stable. So it'll still go on preview even if it is out of experimental, and then it'll eventually get released to the regular Minecraft everyone uses.
Okay, so we are installed. So what we'll do now is we'll go, we'll open VS Code. And yes, we do trust the authors. It's us. Okay, so this is sort of the setup that you have, and it's sort of the most important pieces that you would need. So you've got a behavior pack already, you've got a resource pack so that we've got a place for our logic to go, and then a place for all of the visuals to go. But as you've noticed, like they're sort of empty, they just have a manifest and nothing else. So I'm going to do a couple of things to configure this, and we'll do a little bit of a preview for you.
And to touch a little bit further on what Stephen was talking about as far as the things, if this is your first time making an add-on, you might see this folder structure and not know what's going on. But the main thing to look at is the behavior packs, the resource packs, and the scripts. The behavior packs, as Stephen said, they are used to allow people to change the behaviors of what happens in the game, whether that's creating logic for a new block, whether that's adding a new block entirely or new items, where the resource pack is actually used by the client to be able to determine, oh, how does it look? If you want to change the textures of things, if you want to have your own skin pack, you can use resource packs for that.
Okay, so we're gonna do a deploy so you can see what this process looks like. So what this will do is this will package up everything that you're doing, and it will move it to the folders that Minecraft actually needs for all of your files to be in. The nice thing that also happens is because we allow you to write your code in TypeScript, but for Minecraft, we actually take that as JavaScript. It'll do all of the work for you to like transpile it down into JavaScript, which is invisible to you. You don't have to worry about that at all. And it will send it over there. So that is all in the folder now, but I'm going to jump around a little bit and show you how to add a block to this folder. Okay, so we're going to do this with Blockbench. This is sort of our go-to tool, especially with the block wizard. The Minecraft block wizard really encapsulates all of the things that you would want to be able to very quickly make a block by making it easy with a UI to actually determine all of the specifics of what the block looks like and some of what it does as well. So sort of like prepare you so that when you're tweaking instead of having to write the entirety of the JSON and all of the logic all at one time. So for this one, we'll call this leaf pile. And then we'll call this creator camp. And I'm going to put this in nature. And we'll put this inside of, let's see, which vanilla group do we want this to be attached to? I think for now, I'll say ground cover, which is actually like the grass and ferns. So what we like to do is usually start with a preset that actually fits sort of the block that we want to make. It usually brings down a lot of the guesswork on what you want your block to do. So this leaf pile is going to be a little unique because we actually do want collision, so it's not really like a flower, and we're going to use one repeating texture, so it's not like a log that sort of has different tops and sides. So we actually can use stone. So we're going to start with stone. I'm going to jump through, I won't go through every single option in here, but I'll give you just some idea of things that we would change. So the collision box, we don't want this to be a full collision box. We want you to be able to walk through that leaf pile, at least part of it. So we'll make this slab size, which will shrink it down so it's not as vertically tall. And then one thing that's also cool is we can change this down here with liquid interaction. So you might think of if you take a water bucket and you drop it on the ground, you'll usually see flowers all pop up, and then like a fence will just stay in place. So we actually have the option here to make it that our leaf pile will pop if you actually have water run through it. So it'll break itself and float away. So we're going to go with that as well. And then inside of here, these are some additional visual changes that we can make. So I'm going to change the transparency. One thing that's super nice is that we have multiple options that sort of give you a description of what they do. So an alpha test is something like leaves, where you sort of can see through the block. It's not as performant to have lots of alpha tests, so if you don't need it, you'd rather have an opaque, and this is going to be opaque. Okay, and default loot, because we just want to drop itself. But you could make it drop something different if you wanted something unique. Or maybe we want like multiple of our leaf piles to drop instead of just one. That's something you could change if we went to custom loot. Okay, this is one of my favorite features. So instead of just exporting to a new folder, which we would do if we were just making the block and maybe we weren't adding additional logic to it, we can actually integrate it into a pack. So we're going to do that. So we're going to integrate into a pack, and we can select those folders. So what I want to choose first is my behavior pack. And now I want to go back and choose my resource pack. And so this makes it available, and it'll move all of the files to where you want them to go, and you don't have to manually do any copy pasting. And this also stays here so that if you go to make a new block, it'll also already be ready for you. Okay, so with that, we've got our block. It's not the most interesting block, and it certainly doesn't feel like a leaf pile. One thing that I will call out as well is what we want for this leaf pile is to be able to stomp it. We actually want it to be able to grow as well. So we want to be able to hit it with bone meal, and it goes from being short to a little taller to a little taller, and then stomping it will flatten it all the way back down. So to do that, we're going to need more geometry than we currently have, because right now we have one block, and this is all of the geometry we have. So we're going to do a little, I think I like to call it like the cooking show magic, where we're just going to go to something that's already in the oven now that you've seen us get to this process, and we'll talk through this quickly. Okay, so this is the final version of it. It's still one texture, so it just is one 16 by 16 texture that we've changed a little bit so that there are some leaves on it. And then you'll notice here, there's far more geometry, and we have a bone, which is the middle, and a bone, that's the top. This controls all of the pieces that are up here on the top, and then for the middle, everything that is along here. So this will make it so that and we'll take a look at this next, when we look at the JSON, you'll actually get to see that we can control the visibility of each of those in a different permutation.
One of the questions from chat, from Lucy, why do you use your own internal tool and not something like Dash or Regolith? I'm assuming you mean the MC Tools dev, and the answer for the most part is just, it depends on the developer. Everyone kind of has their own workflow. Some people like MC Tools just because it's what we use, and some people can use it. I do know some other developers using external things.
And mctools.dev, like, it is available to you, so you can use mctools.dev. I think there are some tutorials that go into that space, or if you saw one of the earlier sessions where Mike was using it as well. So MC Tools is available to you in the web. It just doesn't have a standalone thing that you can install. So it is purely a web app. So we also try to make it where even if we are using internal tools, when we're demoing for you, we want to make sure we're giving you the full run through that you can replicate as well. Okay, this is a pre-filled out version of this JSON. So we'll walk you through quickly what we added to it, because if you came into here directly from Blockbench, it would be much, much smaller than it is right now. So we've added some custom states. This is what we're going to use to be able to change between the different heights. One cool thing, because you might have wondered, is this really going to feel like a leaf pile if it's gray? The reason we did that is because we're actually using a new feature, which is biome tinting, which is this tint method that you see here. So whenever we place it out into the world, it will take on the color that the biome that it's attached to wants it to be tinted to. So that's going to be a cool thing for you to see once we place it down in the world. And then here's that liquid detection that we changed. These are two custom components. And this is using scripting 2.0. So this is the format that custom components have, and we'll talk a little bit about that when we look at the TypeScript. And then these are permutations. So this is the default height that you're going to see when we actually place it down in the world. And then these are the two that they can change to when you're using bone meal, or if you're stomping, then you would come back to this one. So we'll take a look at the TypeScript. Okay, this is our pre-filled out one. I can do a little high-level walkthrough, and then I think Gunnar will talk a little bit about like custom components as a whole. So this is a very small like TypeScript file. We tried to make this as minimal as possible so that it really just shows you the very unique things that we are doing here. So you've got something like, we want to spawn particles once we've made a change, and then this is going to be what resets us back. But the custom components themselves, I'll let you talk to as I take us into the game and we can see it live.
Sure. So there's a main kind of difference of why custom components might be needed if you're trying to create a block. So as we saw before in the JSON file, a lot of things you can do with blocks, you can do with components. Whether that's, as you were seeing before, like the liquid detection, or maybe destruction, how resistant as it is to things like TNT. But there are a lot of things you can't do with those components, and that's where scripting and custom components come in. With custom components, especially with V2 now, you can hook up to different events that we allow you to then do different scripting things that is a much more, I guess, expansive for what you want to do. Some of those events that you can listen to are like on place, on destroy, on pickup, or even like on step on, which is some of the things we're going to be showing you today.
Yeah, so right now we're in just a regular world, and so I've got bone meal, and then I've got my block. Because you saw us add it to the categories as well, so if I come to ground cover, there is my block again, so I can add this directly from the UI. But I can place this out in the world. So this is our leaf pile, and as you've noticed, it is tinted. It's no longer gray, and that also means that in the in your hotbar and in your UI, it's also tinted. So it will take that default tinting, so you don't have to worry about it looking different than it would out in the world. So we'll place a couple of these down, and then so as Gunnar called out, we're going to use the on player interact custom component so that when this bone meal is used on it, we're actually going to generate some particles and we'll grow it. So now we've got a larger pile, and then we can do that to all of these. So we can do this here, we can do it one more time here. And then the cool thing is we can stomp them. So I'm going to jump on this one, and it's stomped, and we've got particles everywhere. And you can stomp as many of them as you want, and more particles will generate out. So this is sort of our very brief run through of what you could do with a custom block. And this was done in like a relatively short amount of time, so this wasn't days of work. We try to make most of the blocks that we do be something that you could consume in a reasonably short amount of time. That also lets us know that we haven't added too much complexity, even though we know we're adding a lot of stuff. So that helps from the block wizard and the starter kits. Okay, so to close up our little session, we can just recap some of the tools and tech that we've done so far, and you can find everything that we have here, including more about MC Tools, Blockbench, VS Code, and the custom components on the learning portal for creators. So that's learn.microsoft.com/Minecraft/creator. But we really like using the combination of these. We regularly are having more things added to the block wizard. And then MC Tools is forever like changing to always be up to date with the new tech that's coming through for to support like doing some cool add-ons and doing more TypeScript stuff and being able to just do more in the UI. And then for both VS Code and our custom components, which are really our tied together things. Custom components, we're always looking to expand in that space because we know that it's a great unification to allow sort of the kinds of things that you might do on a vanilla block in a way that is like available to creators. And then VS Code just makes it really simple to hook the whole thing together. We didn't show it here, but like you can use a debugger so that like when something happens in the world, you actually like hit a breakpoint in script. So that's really it's a really nice loop for when you're trying to figure out why your block isn't doing what it's supposed to do. Certainly happened to me a bunch where it's like, why isn't this stomping the way that I want it to stomp? So I think with that, we can take a couple of questions. I can take the first one. Does the editor support custom blocks? It does. So the editor, you absolutely can make your custom blocks here, and if you go into the editor and just make sure you attach that pack to that same project in editor, you will have those custom blocks available to you. Let's see, which other one do we want to take? So we can talk about scripting 2.0. Will we see an increase in depth of the depth limit of custom components? I think this is probably in the sheer count of, like I'm taking that as the depth, like the count of custom components. You'll hear more about that tomorrow if you come to the roadmap. So maybe you should come to that one, but I can give you a little bit of preview. We are always looking to add more. I think for all of our spaces where we're doing a lot of block work, we usually don't limit ourselves to like, okay, we've done it once, we are never coming back to this again. Whenever it makes sense, we like to add as much more into data as we can.
Another question, what about things like the sniffer egg? Is it considered complex block, and how can we block similar to it? We do understand that there are a lot of edge cases, like there are a bunch of blocks that are super complex in vanilla right now that are kind of hard to replicate. Mm-hmm. We are working pretty much, and you'll see more about this tomorrow when we kind of go through the roadmap. But as a general sneak preview, we're always trying to make more things more easily accessible to creators. So it is an end goal. We can't say exactly when everything can be migrated over, but it is a goal.
And there are some things, like with the sniff rag, there's some things that you can sort of replicate now. Like we have custom components that do ticking and random ticks. So if you need time to have taken place before something else happens, which I know if the sniff rag, like time takes place and then you interact with it, like there are some things that you can replicate, but definitely we'll give a cleaner path to how we are going to get there with a lot of those vanilla behaviors in tomorrow's roadmap. Let's see. I think I could probably talk to any plans to add filters to on player play so it only plays the swing animation when they return true. So I think if you mean like when I actually am looking at a block, actually only swing and don't place the block, we could. Like, it's certainly something that we can look at. I know that the swing animation as a whole, I think, is something that creators have asked about quite a bit. So so less so than anything else, it's really just the, like, I want to actually be able to swing. So maybe we'll look at just swinging in general. Okay, I know we are getting close to our time, so I'm going to wrap us up.
Cool.
Thank you so much for sitting through our little demo. I hope it was informational and helpful, and maybe now you're interested in making some blocks too.
Cool. Thank you, guys.
See ya. Thanks.
Hi, and welcome to day one. This is a World Gen. I am Kat, and this is,
Dana.
and we're here to talk about all the goodness that comes with world generation. So today, it is World Gen, make a camp jigsaw structure plus tree feature with feature rules. Bit of a mouthful. But a little bit about me. So I am Kat Siegert. I'm a product manager over on Gameplay Systems. I am an inadvertent world generation enthusiast.
And I'm Dana Zhu. I'm a developer over at Gameplay Systems, and I guess I'm a world generation wrangler. So let's get started.
So today we're going to talk about a little bit about biomes, features, and structures and what they are, jigsaw structures, and features and feature rules. So we're going to start with, what is world generation? So first, when we generate the terrain, this decides the biomes and happens when the world is loading up. Then we determine the biomes that are on top of the terrain. This is where the newly released experimental custom biomes come into play. And once the biome has been selected, we start generating things like caves and other blocks, decoration blocks, surface blocks, and other generation selections. Then we start to layer on features like trees, flowers, and yes, even ore. And at the same time, we're layering on structures, both from the base game and any custom ones that may be available. This is where the jigsaw structures experiment comes to play. And then you, the player, enter the world after it's all been set up.
So there are a few things that you should do first. I'm sure we've all covered it over and over again here, but they'll make things smoother. So first, you're going to want to go over to mctools.dev and make your behavior pack. Pick a namespace first. Don't be like me. I chose several and confused the heck out of myself. Of course, download Minecraft. I hope you guys all have that. And then add the behavior pack to your local data. So you can see there's kind of a little tip there, but I'm sure there's plenty of tutorials online. So we're going to first start off by talking about jigsaw structures. If you guys haven't heard, they are very large structures, very different from the structure templates that are a type of feature. That's because, kind of like a jigsaw, like what the jigsaw name, these pieces of a structure can be randomly placed and put together, like a jigsaw puzzle. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to walk you through building a campsite. The first thing we're going to do is make a structures folder. And that means we're going to actually go into the world and make the structure pieces. So go into a flat world with your cheats on, and as of today, I believe you'll have to have this, the jigsaw structures experimental toggle on. And then you're going to create your desired structure segments. The official term is pieces. You're going to save each with a structure block, and then make sure that your bounds are snug so you don't unintentionally add air. So you can see to the right, I made a tent, and then I made several path blocks as well as a campfire. Next, you're going to want to add a jigsaw block to wherever you potentially want to connect to another piece. So the way to think about it is, can this piece connect to or be connected to by another piece? That's a bidirectional jigsaw piece. Another way to think about it, or a different version, is can this piece only connect to another piece and not be found by others? This is a one-directional jigsaw piece. The helpful parameters to fill out are target pool. This is the pool where all your structure pieces will be in and will be randomly chosen from. The name is the name that you want to give to your jigsaw piece. You can actually leave it blank. So if you leave it blank, it means you don't want other blocks to be able to find this jigsaw piece. The target name is what you would want, is the jigsaw piece that you'd want to connect to, and turns into is what this jigsaw block will eventually turn into when you actually place it into the world. So here is a little video just to run through. So this is kind of an end to a path. I'm pointing it to the campsite paths pool, And the block that I want to connect to is the campsite path. So this is going to connect to the other campsite path blocks in this target pool. So this is an example of another path I could connect to. Because it has a name, I can find this piece and connect to it. But this next one is going to be an example where it doesn't have a name. So other blocks can't find this piece, but this piece can go ahead and connect to a tent entry jigsaw piece. So that's the example of a one-directional jigsaw block. So here's another one where it's a path block. So that means it can go ahead and find other path jigsaw blocks, or other blocks can find this jigsaw piece. And then this next step is you're going to want to export the structure piece as an MC structure and then save it to the structure folder. So you're going to go over to the structure block. If you haven't placed it already, you're going to want to place that and make sure that it's quite snug. I'm hoping this is a video. So I gave it a name, and you're going to probably want to offset so you don't actually save the structure block. And you can see here it's quite snug. There's some air blocks there. If you don't want any air, you can actually use, it's called a structure void block, and you won't actually export air and replace any blocks that might be in that area. Now we're going to move on to the next step. So we already, with the structures folder, we made the meat of the jigsaw structure. Now we're going to make the brains. There are going to be 4 folders within the WorldGen folder: the jigsaw structures folder, structure sets, template pools folder, and processors. And I'm going to go into each one. So hang in there with me. The first folder you're going to want to make is the jigsaw structures folder. Once you have that made, go ahead and make a basic camp.json file. This is where you're going to define how the jigsaw structure is going to be pieced together. There is more documentation online. So if you go over to the right and look at the code, the one thing you should definitely make sure to fill out is the terrain adaptation so that the world can adapt to the structure. So I chose Beardbox. That just means it's going to add a little bit of density to the voxel underneath the structure, but I think it looks pretty cool. All right. Now we're going to go over and make the structure sets folder. You're going to also make another basic camp.json file. This determines what structure or structures there are in this pack and how they should be stamped into the world. So this is where I make and define my basic camp structure. If this is going really fast and pretty confusing, don't worry. We have all that documentation online, and our very own Mike has actually made a really great jigsaw structure tutorial as well, both with written documentation. So this is more commentary, and I'm giving you guys little tips as well. So the 2 things you really, really want to make sure you do and think about is the separation and spacing parameters. Separation is the padding in the cell, and the spacing is the size of the cell, i.e. how each structure is. So here the spacing is 10, so that means each structure is separated into by 10 chunks. So if you think of a grid paper, each box in that grid would be the spacing. So that each box would be 10 chunks. And then within that box, you can have a little border. That's your separation. Just think of that entire space is where your structure is going to be, and you can just manipulate that however you want. For example, you could place it randomly with random spread. So go have fun with that. The third folder we're going to make is the template pools folder. This is where you make separate JSON files for different template pools. So a template pool represents a pool of pieces that can be randomly picked depending on its weighted probability. So the 3 ones that we're going to make are campfires.json, paths.json, and tents.json. This kind of corresponds to the structures we had made before in the structure folder. And you kind of want to group them into specific types. That way you're not confusing yourself with which template pool am I choosing from. Let's move on to the next. Oh, and the one thing that tripped me up is if you go over to the right and look over at location, make sure there is no namespace there. I did a newbie mistake, but it is okay. And there's so many resources online and community members out there who can help you there, and we'll be there to help you as well. Okay, so let me go back again. This was an example of only one element in the template pool. Next, I'm going to show you a quite lengthy template pool file, but that's exciting because there are multiple structure piece elements, and you can see that there's weights. So depending on the weight, it means, okay, am I more likely to pick a path N2 versus a tent corridor? The last folder we're going to make is the processors folder. Processors are functions to call when placing the structure, and they're actually used in template pools. So I want to make it so that some of my grass path blocks are randomly replaced by coarse dirt. This kind of makes it a little bit more campsite-y, nature-y. So I'm going to go and make a JSON file called grasspathreplacement.json, as you can see to the right, or my right. And I think it's quite straightforward that there's the input predicate. The rule is the random block match. So the block I want replaced is grass path. The probability I want it to be replaced is 0.2. And then the output block is going to be coarse dirt. Here is a little view of our campsite so far. As you can see, there's tents, there's a campfire, and we walk through. There's a lot of tents because I made a tent corridor. I want to bring all my friends to go on a camping trip with me. And this was just randomly stamped into the world. So I was like flying around and found this cool cave. I'm like, wow, this is the campsite I want to settle in. Nice. Oh. So just a reminder, it is back in experimental. We heard some good feedback from you guys, and please, please go play with this and give us more feedback. We had a good reminder that you guys like building really, really long structures. And so we had to go back to the drawing board and make sure that the world can adapt well to those structures. But please go and play with it and give us the feedback so that we can make sure that you guys have a great experience with Jigsaw structures. And next we're going to move on to features.
Hello. So features are all the different decorations on and under the surface. So this is things like trees, flowers, fossils, geodes, and more. So you've seen previously how to set up a pack with all the previous tutorials, and these would be under the folder called features in a behavior pack. So features have a lot of powerful things that they can do, and some are even hierarchical to other features. So today we're going to be looking at a simple feature of a spruce tree. So this is here where you set up all the basic information. You put an identifier, you put your format version, everything that you need to just start your features file. Next up, we want to define the trunk. So this is how tall the tree will be, how thick the tree will be. For me, I mimic the spruce logs, but if you have ever seen a spruce, I definitely do some very, very tall trees. Next, we look at the leaves. So this is how big the canopy is. Is it going to go spread out? Is it going to go tall? I just used general spruce leaves so that we could take a look. But I did make the canopies very wide. So next, we're looking at the base block. So this is what does it grow out of? So for this one, I just picked coarse dirt. Then we look at where can it grow? So it can grow on podzol, it can grow on dirt, it can grow on grass. So anywhere that any of those three are the surface block of a biome, it can put one of my spruce trees. And then next we look at what can it replace? So if there is air or any type of tree leaves, like if other leaves exist, then my spruce tree will be able to come in and be like, I am a mighty spruce tree and I shall move you all out of the way. So here as well, this defines what can it grow through. So like what in the base can it grow through in order to place itself. So in this case, it was dirt, grass, and coarse dirt. And as a reminder, it'll place that base block of coarse dirt. Then we make sure we have all of those things together. So there is quite a lot that will go into a feature. There's even more here that I don't get into, but this was meant to be a very simple tree that we could take a look and see what the results are.
And it keeps going.
This is all of those pieces put together. We can go to the next slide. So that means we're done with the feature, right? Not quite. So some of the features can be nested inside of another feature, but every single feature needs to be tagged to a feature rule. So let's take a look at what a feature rule for this tree would look like. So our mighty spruce, so the feature rules will determine where the features are spread and how they're grouped, which is why you need each one for a feature. So you start with the same general information. So you have your identifier and tying it to the feature. So it also determines where in the different passes across the surface it chooses to place the items. So as you're generating a world, it will have different phases that it goes through. And this looks at the surface pass. And lastly, it looks at in which biome can it spawn. I made a general biome tag of forest. Then you take a look at the distribution. So feature rules determine where the features are spread and how they are grouped. What that means is that all throughout this, you have to go through and decide, how do I want these to be spread out? Do I want them to be grouped in a fixed manner or maybe more random? So for this one, you can see it's uniform, and I'll go into what that means in just a minute. And it takes a look at this query.height map, looks at the top level of a block and places it on that. So regardless of how hilly or mountainous your area is, it isn't looking at a specific Y level, but whatever is the top surface level. So distribution actually breaks down into 6 supported values. They're uniform, Gaussian, inverse Gaussian, triangle, fixed grid, and jittered grid. So I do want to talk about this a little bit because this caused me a lot of heartache when I was making them. I didn't understand what these meant. I was just playing around with them, and then finally somebody had to sit me down and be like, these are what they mean. So for anyone who's like me, uniform is any point in the grid that has an equal chance of a feature being placed. Jittered grid is the points are assigned into a random place within a section of a grid. And here you can see my beautiful hand-drawn grid. For triangle, it selects a random spot within a triangle of space. And then for fixed, you have fixed grid. So it's always at the vertices of the grid. So anywhere at the end of a chunk, that's where you'll have your thing pop up. For Gaussian, it actually normalizes all of your samples towards the center. So if you have a bunch of features you want to place, it'll all center into this small area. Whereas inverse Gaussian is the opposite. Everything's spread out and it floats towards the edges. So now that we know all that, let's take a look. So you can see these have a much longer trunk and a much wider canopy, really giving you those camping vibes. I did at one point make the canopy so large that all of the trees just melded together and it was one just block of leaf, and that was very fun, but I figured that probably was not an easy way to take a look at this. I think we've gone back to the beginning.
Here's a view of both the feature and feature rules as well as the jigsaw structures put together in a world. So look at that luscious forest that Cat put together. Now we're going to fly over to our campsite, hidden amongst the trees. And what do we have here? Bunch of tents, and going into the cavern, looks like they set up a little campfire. Quite nice.
I want to go camping there. It looks great.
Right. And of course, a shout out to It's Marlowe's. I got your tent tutorial online and it was very clear. So thank you for the beautiful tent tutorial. All right. Does anyone have any questions? I see a few popping up so far. Can we change the behavior of, I'm gonna change that a little bit. Can we change the behavior of vanilla Jigsaw structures? So right now, only trail ruins is data driven. We are quite close to getting trial chambers to be data driven as well. But that means right now, only the parameters for trail ruins is available to be played around with. That was Entralist that was Entralist. Next, from Humble Galloput, when spacing is set to 10, is that the chunk's minimum, or will the structure appear every 10 chunks? My understanding is that's the chunk's minimum, and if you know World Gen, it's tricky, because it might have told you there was a structure there, but actually, there's a chance the structure didn't get placed. That's because, given how the various components of World Gen I guess interweave together, it calculated that there was a structure there, but there was probably something that prevented it from being placed there. So you're gonna, if you don't see the structure, don't worry. Try teleporting somewhere else and locating a structure, and you'll be able to find that. Thank you for that question. Alder Villanueva asks, are you going to make a block bench plugin about structures and features? That sounds like a lovely idea, and I will go poke the block bench or the tools people to go and do that. We are definitely in talks with the editor team as well. They are very interested in structures and features. So for sure, we are trying to make it easy for you guys to work with this. So thank you for that question. Daryl asks, when structure block I will just say it, and I think English will happen. When structure block can do structure.file on mobile devices export. Kat, I haven't registered yet. Do you have an answer to that?
I don't know if we are supporting that at this time, but we can absolutely take a look at it for a later date. But as far as I know, we don't have anything that supports it at this time.
If we are wrong, I'm sure our lovely mods will correct us in chat, or we can follow up. All right, Dookie Pookie asks, what about cave underground generation rather than the surface? So you can definitely have it set to cave and underground generation. So I believe this was in the Jigsaw structures file, I set it so that the generation pass my structures got placed at was during the structures generation. I believe that was the pass. But there are various passes of world generation you can use to place the structures. So underground should be one of them as well. Though,
and in addition, there is also a cave carving feature that you could take a look at as well.
Yeah. We just recently exposed start height. So that actually might be more helpful in making sure that your caves generate underground versus above ground on the surface. Because what we do is we calculate the surface height and decide where to place the structure for that. The Con Master asks, when other vanilla structures are not data-driven yet, what features are missing and making this not possible with current API setup? So again, the Trail Ruins is currently the only one that's been data-driven. Trial Chambers is so close. We are so close. I guess it's a tricky question because we work with both the vanilla team as well as creators, and I think there's just a lot of structures that people really want. And
So the answer
One-
is we're taking a look. Like we're
Yes.
investigating right now into what can we expose, what is left. So it is something that we're actively looking into. However, I wouldn't say that there's anything that's scoped or planned yet for anything beyond the trail ruins. So once we are able to like get our arms around the full work, we'll be able to tell you a bit more. But at the moment, we don't really have a lot of information about it. We're still looking into it and making sure that we are gathering all of the information to get the best possible answer for that.
But you can definitely use our current API to make use of the trail ruins. All right, I think that's about all our questions. Thank you for joining us, and have fun.
Hello, my name's Gunnar Headley. I'm back again on the gameplay developer systems team.
I am Ayana Adegay. I am also a developer on the Gameplay Systems team.
Today, we're going to be showing you about items, custom components, and scripting. So this is a little similar to the block custom component tutorial that we did last time, but now we're going to be talking about items. So today, we're going to be making a custom leaf bag, similar to, if you remember, if you were here previously for the custom block when we made a leaf pile, we're going to now be using a leaf bag to pick up those leaf piles. So we're going to be going through a couple different ways of doing that, similar to the block. There's going to be a JSON component. There's going to be custom components in V2 for items. And we're also going to be talking about the script APIs and kind of how this all works. So before we dive into it, let's just kind of talk about what we want to do with the leaf pile. So the first thing we want to do is we want to make a leaf pile item that you can pick up, or sorry, a leaf bag that you can pick up leaf piles with. And we, of course, a bag can only have so many items in it. We want to have some way of enforcing how many items that we have in it. And then we also want to see how many leaves are in the bag. And then also, that's assuming that you want to use the item to pick up something with a block. But we also just want to be able to just, right click in the air and then toss things. We want to toss the leaves in the air. And we also want to see the leaves fly around with particles and make it nice and cute. So before we go into kind of the specifics of the implementation, let's kind of go over a little bit about how this will all be configured. So the two things to kind of keep in mind is, one, the definition in the JSON format, and then the script in the TypeScript format. If you're here for the block description, it's a similar format where we have the JSON defining the item, where that has things like the version, the identifier, and then a list of components. Components are the same idea as they are in blocks, where they have different attributes that you can modify, like the icon of it, the max stack size, things like compostable, if you want to use the composter, and then also custom component identifiers. So that is, again, similar to how it works in blocks, where you can then loop that into the leaf bag script. And then similar to how blocks work, and we'll talk about this a little later, on how this is used, but you can hook up different events to the item. Things like onUseOn, which is specifically used for knowing if an item was used on a block, or onUse, which is specifically used if you're just tossing it in the air. Similar to how if you are flying with the Elytra and you use a firework, you can then use that in the air to have a speed boost. And then we'll also go through different dynamic properties and kind of other things to go through. But yeah, now let's go through the demo. Anna, I'm going to take it away.
Yes, so we are going to go into the game. We're going to do a backwards demo. So first, I'm going to show you what we actually have. So I'm in the game, I'm at my little campsite, and I have my bag of leaves. So what I'm going to do, like we mentioned, we want to be able to pick up some leaf piles. So I'm going to come over here, I'm going to scoop up some of these leaf piles, and we can see that they're disappearing and going into our bag. And then like we mentioned earlier, we want to be able to throw the leaves. So right-clicking with use is spawning these cute little leaf particles around us. Also, we're like setting the lore. I'll go more into this when we get to the code, but the lore is what's showing us that text that says 5 out of 12 leaves remaining. And then the dynamic properties is what causes that has custom properties subtext to show up. So what if I empty my bag of leaves? If we go through and we empty all of our leaves out of our bag, it'll tell us that our bag of leaves is empty. Then if we try to place, it'll also say our bag of leaves is empty. And then if we go and pick up some more leaves, and then now we're able to place. Ooh. And then now our bag is empty again. And then just one more. If we fill our bag all the way up, then we'll get a notification that our bag of leaves is full. So this block had 2 height, but since our bag of leaves only had 1 space left in it, it only took that 1 top piece. So what does this actually look like in code? So here we are in our JSON. We're going to start with just looking at the bag of leaves JSON. So like we mentioned, here we're just using regular item components and then also the custom components using V2 custom components. So most of this is pretty simple. We're setting a max stack size of 1. Since we just have 1 bag, we have set our custom icon here. We have our display name, so we get the bag of leaves when we hover over our item. It's compostable, so we can compost it when we're done collecting our leaves. And then we have our 2 custom components here at the bottom. One thing that I want to emphasize is this ability to set parameters in your custom component. So what does this look like when we pop back over to scripting or to TypeScript? So let's start here, or actually let's start in the main. Here we can see how we register our two custom components. So we have our throw leaves custom component and the leaf pile interaction custom component. One thing to note is that before with custom components v1, to register your custom components, you use the world.before events .world initialize, I believe. This has now been changed in scripting 2.0 to be system.before events.startup. So just remember that that has changed when you try to update your stuff to 2.0. Moving into the TypeScript for our throw leaves custom component, we are making use of the unuse event. So this is when we're right-clicking into the air, and this is how we throw our leaves. So this is implementing the item custom component. This is a little bit different to our leaf pile demo, where instead we just had our functions here. We've done it slightly differently, where we just put it in a class. So a few things to highlight here. We're using dynamic properties to read and set our leaf count on our item. We're using the set lore. Can I pull that up here? Let's see, it is here. We're using set lore to actually put the subtext on the item so you can actually see our count the 5 out of 12 leaves. And then another thing to note for these item events, so like the item use event and the item use on event and the leaf interaction component, the item stack that we get back from these are actually read only. So something important to note is that when you make changes to the item here, so setting the dynamic property and setting the lore, we have to go back and put the item back into the player's hand after use. So that's just to make sure our item stack is up to date. So another thing I want to call out here is the use of particles. So we have our thing here where we're using the spawn particle API, and the leaf particle we're using is actually the name that we pulled from the JSON using our custom parameters for custom components. Important thing to note that the names have to exactly match. So leaf particle here, it's leaf underscore particle, similar to in the bag of leaves, it is leaf underscore particle for them to match. And then also we have our particle here. I won't go into many details because this is about items and not particles, but there is documentation on the learning portal on how to set up your particle and make it do what you want it to do. We'll also pop into the leaf pile interaction component. This is how we're able to place our leaves and pick up our leaves. Very similar here too. We're getting dynamic properties, setting dynamic properties. And then another thing I want to call out is this on-screen display API here. This is how we get that bag of leaves is full or empty to pop up on our screen. And then otherwise, we're just replacing the block, setting the block, and then doing our usual updating the count on the item stack itself with dynamic properties. So.
And one thing to note, all of this might look like a lot of scripting here, but everything that we are showing off today is going to be provided for you at a later date. So you can play around with it as much as you like.
So just going to do one last demo in the game. We are going to, first let's see how many, okay, so our bag is full. So we're going to go ahead and empty our bag, throw all of our leaves into the air. We're going to collect up the rest of our, oops, ooh, didn't empty it. Okay, now our bag of leaves is empty. We're going to go and pick up all of our leaves on the campsite because we're a good camper. We want to clean up after ourselves. And then after we filled our bag, we're going to compost our bag. And now we have cleaned up our campsite.
We're so great at camping.
Yes.
I'm excited.
Thank you.
Cool. And we can go into some of the questions that we have. One from Daryl. What do you think about doing a dynamic changing of the icon item? From my understanding, I don't know if you know this better, Ayana, I think it should be possible today.
Currently the way we would do, if you want to do that, it would be similar to how I updated the item stack after I made my changes. So you could change your item there. There's currently no direct way to take your current item stack and change its icon because that component is local to all instances of that item rather than that, or all items rather than that instance of the item. But definitely something to consider in the future. It was also something I kind of wanted to do here, to change from an empty bag to a full bag as I filled my bag.
Oh, and that actually reminds me of one thing I wanted to mention as far as the custom components goes. As we saw, there's two different events that we use, the on use and then on use on. On use for item for just tossing in the air, and then on use on for placing it on a block. Those events that we are using are read-only, meaning that you can only really read the properties of an item stack. If you wanted to, say, update the item or do anything else with it and set things, you'll then have to use what's called system.run is a way of doing that, where you can then essentially change the properties. The reason we have to do that is mainly due to how we calculate a lot of things in the tick. Essentially, if you do system.run, it'll allow us to basically set things at the end of the tick, thereby allowing us to make sure that there's no weirdness happening in between, basically, when you get the event and then when actually trying to set things.
Yeah, because some of those events run in a read-only context, and then system.run will run after you're out of that read-only context. So you can actually write stuff.
Yeah, it's a thing that we get tripped up by. I personally get tripped up on all the time whenever I try and use scripting in V2 components. Next question from MadLad. With custom components V2, is there a way to detect if a given item stack or block instance has a custom component and access its custom component parameters?
So this would be done inside of your custom component script. I'm not sure where you're trying to access, like where we're trying to do this detection from, but if we're doing it via TypeScript in the custom component class that we were using, that's where we know that we have custom components because our custom component class is being run at that time. So that's how we can tell that our item stack has a custom component, because it's running our custom component code, and then we access those custom component parameters through the custom component parameters class that we extended or made to grab the leaf particle and then use the leaf particle in that custom component.
Cool. So that's pretty much it. It doesn't look like there's any more questions, but yeah, thank you guys very much for joining us. My name is Gunnar Headley.
I'm Ayana Adagaye.
Thank you guys very much for joining us.